Hey everyone, I'm Albert Boris. Have you ever wondered what Mario Party Superstars would have been like with boss battles? Well, too bad I won't answer those questions in this video, but I will do it in an upcoming video, so please subscribe to stay notified about that. Anyways, last week I took a look at the minigames of Mario Party Superstars and counted down what I believe to be the top 10 best minigames from this game, which has been around for just a month now. However, there's also another side to the story, the worst minigames in this entry. Mario Party Superstars is amazing, no doubt. However, nothing comes without flaws, and in fact, this game has quite a lot of flawed minigames. You'd think Mario Party Superstars, remaking the best aspects of the older entries, would fix a lot of the problems in the many awful minigames it brought back, but sadly, it doesn't. It's more like they wanted to bring back the exact same feelings you experienced in the older days, literally. I mean, why else did they bring back Tug of War? So which of these unchanged minigames led to being the worst of the bunch? That's what we'll take a look at in this video. And before we start this video, make sure to like, share and subscribe to my channel, because at 1000 subscribers, I'll make a ranking on every single Mario Party game. And make sure to follow me on Twitter, Discord and Reddit for updates. With that being said, let's begin. We'll start this list off with a coin minigame. River Raiders. The coin minigames in the Mario Party are where instead of aiming for a certain objective, in coin minigames the aim is to get as many coins as possible, and the amount that you collect is the amount you win. As a result, these minigames don't really have a winner or loser unless you got nothing, and they tend to feel kind of lackluster. Sure, it's cool to get a few extra coins, but the minigames themselves feel rather bland due to the only thing you can do is to get as many coins as you can. There's nothing inherently interesting about them, just get the coins. And for some reason, Mario Party Superstars has a whopping 10 out of these, and none of them are really good, aside from maybe 2. River Raiders is one of the bad ones, and it opens up our top 10 worst list. This is a 1 vs 3 minigame, where the 3 are holding onto a rope latched to the solo player's boat, and you have to get, obviously, as many coins as you can. The issue with this minigame, being 1 vs 3, is the unbalanced nature. Obviously, the solo player has all the advantages, being in front of the team and being able to move wherever he wants to. Sure, he moves slowly, but it's nothing when you compare it to the fact that the team do not have free movement over the area. The solo player can just nab whatever he feels like because he's far ahead of the team, while the team just gets whatever the solo player might have missed. It's really unbalanced. If it was more like money belts, where the solo player couldn't just nab everything, it might not have been on the list, but it is, because it's unbalanced, and it opens up the top 10 worst list of this game. The 2 vs 2 minigames in this game are all pretty great. They all require a varied degree of skill in order for you to win them, in addition to the teamwork aspect, which can also add drama in case you get grouped with your worst enemy. All those minigames rock, except for Bobsled Run. I don't even know where the developers went wrong on this one. It had everything going to be a decent minigame. You're racing down a slide in a bobsled. It has speed boosts and unrailed roads. Heck, even the music is cool. But the controls. It's got to be the most awkward thing ever. Turning is obviously pretty crucial, but you've got to be super careful because even the slightest flick will prove to be sharper than necessary. That's basically the entire minigame. For an entire minute, you have to deal with awkward controls and unsatisfying bumps to the walls. All this on a pretty bland slide. You'd think they'd fix this issue from the original N64 games, but I guess not. But even if the steering was more natural, I still have other problems with this minigame. It's over a minute long, and it's just turning and steering on a massive but boring slide. Other long minigames like Dungeon Duos at least have a lot going for them. Bobsled Run is just a slide. Sure, there's the occasional speed boost, but other than that, there's nothing of interest. Also, is it just me who gets thrown off by this, but why the heck do you not respawn after you've driven off the edge accidentally? It's not one of the easiest minigames in Mario Party with the ice physics it has, so to not be given another chance at all made sense in the original Mario Party, as it was harsh, but much less sense in the same game that's infested with lucky spaces. The fact that you only have one chance just doesn't sit right with me, when other minigames let you respawn. It's not the worst minigame, I do enjoy it a bit, but it's certainly one of the most flawed ones in Mario Party Superstars. Trapeze Artist is the definition of a minigame that tries to be skillful, but in the end just comes out as obnoxious luck. The concept is fine, and heck, it had potential. Actually it didn't. You have a bunch of these Goombas walking around on the ground and you have to drop a cage when there's as many Goombas as possible under yours. Seems cool enough. You'd think you'd have to use your sharp eye to see when you should drop it. However, the execution is far more repulsive because in the end it's actually just luck. Sometimes a lot of Goombas decide to walk under you, sometimes they don't. There is no way to influence where the Goombas will walk. It's just RNG. And RNG isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, some luck-based minigames are actually fine. However, Trapeze Artist obviously doesn't want to be luck-based. It tries to be skillful, but it just isn't. Maybe if there was some way to lure the Goombas to your spot, it could have been better, but as it stands now, there is really nothing to do other than hope for the best. As a result, Trapeze Artist is number 8 on my list. A bad minigame. The 7th spot on this list sees the return of a coin-based minigame, Parasol Plummet. I always dread whenever this minigame comes up, because while it's not awful, it's certainly not enjoyable either. You're hunting coins, while free falling to your doom with a parasol you can open up to dampen your fall and get coins a bit more easily. But honestly, this entire minigame is just very poorly designed. If you don't open up your parachute, you'll fall to the bottom, but when you do, the game just automatically opens up the parachute for you instead, removing any strategy. You can just kind of let this minigame play itself and just move around occasionally with a control stick. And even opening up the parasol on your own is very unresponsive. Sometimes you'll click twice because you didn't notice it open up the first time, and then it will just open up and close. You don't really feel in control when you play this minigame. It's really annoying, and seeing this issue in Nintendo Switch game isn't very impressive. Another issue is just how hectic it is. I don't mind minigame is being chaotic, but Parasol Plummet is chaotic to the extent that I don't even know what the heck is going on. There are obstacles everywhere and everyone is just pushing each other out of the way. Add into the fact that your only objective is getting a bunch of coins and you have a relatively mediocre minigame. Parasol Plummet is not a very well designed minigame, and it will stay here in this list because of that. Ah yes, the classical button masher. Button mashers are fundamentally prone to being disastrous. These are the kinds of minigames where you need to mash one or more buttons as fast as you can, and I've never been a fan of these. You just end up exhausted for nothing by the time you complete them, and Mario Party Superstars has 2 of them for some reason. Cheap Chase and Poke Pummel. Out of the 2, I vastly prefer Poke Pummel, because while I think Cheap Chase is more aesthetically interesting, Poke Pummel has something that minigame doesn't have. A world record. That alone gives Poke Pummel so much more replayability over this minigame, which is just a standard button masher. It's less about getting the best score and more about trying to reach the end while ducking from spike balls and avoid getting eaten by this huge Cheap. It's just button mashing and the occasional ducking. It's no fun. Some people may enjoy it, that's fine. I just don't like having to mash a button for 30 seconds losing my breath while also having to dodge spike balls with the pickiest hitboxes in all of Mario Party. In the end, Cheap Chase is just another boring button masher without any real fun. Mario's Puzzle Party isn't necessarily a minigame I hate. It's got a decent enough concept, being basically Tetris but with a Mario twist to it. Normally I wouldn't have included a bonus minigame on this list, however this one can actually be played in the normal Mario Party mode, and it sure was the wrong one to pick. The concept of the minigame isn't bad, but it's not my kind of thing. It's just Tetris with a Mario twist, nothing unusual. However, it wouldn't have been on this list had it not been as broken as it is. You can just spam down blocks without any second thought and the game will just automatically play itself. Yes, it's that broken. It was broken in Mario Party 3, it was broken in Mario Party DS, and it's equally broken in Mario Party Superstars. It removes any fun this minigame might have originally had, because the real way to play it rewards less than basically cheating. You get more points if you just spam down all the blocks. When there is a way to break the entire game, it's obviously going to be put on this list. Whenever you play it online, people just cheat their way to victory. And that's not even including the fact that the minigame itself is just Tetris. Why is Tetris a minigame in Mario Party? It just feels so out of place. Other bonus minigames in this entry are at least interesting, this one is not. I could have put it higher, however, the upcoming minigames on this list are even more ridiculous. At least this one is kind of playable, and getting the absolutely highest score in this minigame can't be solved by simply spamming. In that regard, you need a little more strategy. Out of all the minigames from Mario Party 10, can you believe it? They actually decided that Flash Forward would be a good minigame to return to Mario Party Superstars. Yes, out of all the underrated minigames this entry has got, they probably went with the most boring minigame in existence. The fact that it's been brought back not only in the top 100, but even in Superstars is just embarrassing. Could they not have thought of anything else? Like, seriously? The rules are simple. Be at the center of the stage when the photo is snapped. The issue is that it's just 10 seconds long, and there's literally no reason to do anything until the last 2 seconds or so. It won't be snapped until the very end. So why even fight for the podium when you'll be punched out long before the camera is even close to 0? And even excluding that gameplay flaw, the minigame itself is just boring. You're just punching out everyone to get to the center for a single photo. After that, it's done. Can you imagine any more underwhelming minigame than this? I don't think so. Slapperazzi from Super Mario Party basically took this minigame and made it what it should have been originally. Like, if it maybe had multiple rounds, I might have had a stronger impression left from this. I mean, the concept is fine as seen in Slapperazzi, but without the multiple rounds, Flash Forward is one of those minigames you don't even know exists until you play it. It's horrendously boring. Ah yes, the minigame that started it all, the one that would set the tone for the rest of the series. Red light, green light.
Green light.
Wait, we're still talking about Mario Party? Oh sorry, my bad. It's just such a good show. Anyways, Sneak and Snore is an instant classic when it comes to awful Mario Party minigames, without any doubt. The original one on N64 was already horrendous. Take red light, green light, except add in the fact that you have reactions worse than a sloth. You had to escape this fortress, while hiding as quickly as possible in your barrel whenever this chain chomp woke up. The issue was never the concept, it was the fact that the game never responded to your input quickly enough. You'd let go of the control stick, but it would take another 3 seconds for your character to actually go hide. Because of this, it's impossible to know when you should actually let go of the stick, and as a result, it almost always ends in a draw for everyone. So you'd think when they bring back such an atrocity, they'd at least fix this issue. But no, it's just as broken as it was in the old days. It's like they were deliberately trying to replicate the frustration from the original game. Now, there is strategy to the game. The chain jump's bubble grows bigger as he is closer to waking up, and you're supposed to walk slowly to be able to hide quicker. Because apparently, this is the equivalent of running the marathon. But the issue is, even with this strategy in mind, it's still as unfun as can be. It's nearly impossible to tell how large the chain jump's bubble is because it's constantly growing and shrinking. And you're still gonna want to be as fast as possible, but because everyone will try to do it, it will still, more often than not, end in a draw. And the times it doesn't end in a draw, it's just an overdrawn waiting game. Overall, this minigame is just broken, even more so than Mario's Puzzle Party is. At least that minigame is playable. Sneak and Snore is one of the worst minigames of all time, and it's quite deserving of opening up the top 3 worst minigames in this game. It should be noted that Mario Party 1's minigames are really kind of awful. As it was the first game, the developers didn't really have an idea of what worked well and what didn't, and as such, we got a lot of unbalanced 1 vs 3 minigames. Yes, even more so than Goal. Piranhas Pursuit is the most blatant example of how to not make these kinds of minigames. Heck, it could have been first place on this list. In some instances, I consider this to be the worst Mario Party minigame of all time. However, it's not the minigame I personally hate the most, so it barely missed out on that spot. Piranha's Pursuit is an example of a 1 vs 3 minigame that is totally rigged towards the solo player, whom has to escape a PD piranha the 3 are trying to raise. The issue is that even if the team works together well, they'll still lose if the solo player is just mildly competent. Seriously, PD is so slow, and the solo player's obstacles come so early that you're well prepared when to jump. Actually, even if you miss 1 or 2 obstacles, you'll still probably win because of how slow the piranha plant runs. Piranha's Pursuit is just bad. It doesn't work. I'm sure it could have been better if PD ran faster. That's the nicest thing I can say about this minigame. Number 1 on this list is completely irredeemable. The worst minigame in all of Mario Party Superstars is none other than Castaways. Dear goodness, what made ND Cube think people wanted to see this minigame of all to return? I've always hated Castaways, and I still do it in this game. To start off, it's a coin minigame, where your objective is to catch as many coins / bags / chests as possible by throwing this hand into the sea and then reeling it in. Seems like a fine concept on paper, except aiming is literally the hardest thing ever. Unless you've maybe practiced for 5 hours straight, there's literally no idea of knowing when to throw the line, and if you miss, you have to waste time reeling it in. What's even more difficult, however, is aiming at which lane to throw at. You see, there are 3 different lanes of items floating by, but for some reason, I can only get items from the farthest lane, even if I just hold back the control stick slightly. What do I know, the instructions only show control stick for adjusting distance, but not how. Maybe I'm just bad at this minigame, but if it takes me 5 hours just to grasp how I'm supposed to play a minigame, it's not good in my book. At least with Piranhas Pursuit, it might have worked if only the piranha plant speed was buffed. With Castaways, it's broken to the core. Nothing can possibly fix this absolute travesty, and that's why it's the worst minigame in Mario Party Superstars. And so there you have it, my top 10 least favorite minigames in Mario Party Superstars. Which ones did you hate the most? If you like this video, then please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, because soon more interesting videos about Mario Party Superstars will come out by me. And again, follow me on Discord, Twitter and Reddit for updates. With that being said, I'm signing off.